Commander Jack Harrison stood at the viewport of Earth's diplomatic station, watching the glittering ships of the Galactic Council species drift past. The space around Alpha Centauri had once filled him with wonder. Now it only reminded him of broken promises. "They're early," said Lisa Reeves, stepping beside him. As Earth's head diplomat, Ambassador Reeves had spent 15 years trying to secure humanity's place among the stars. The slight tremor in her usually steady hands told Jack everything he needed to know about her state of mind. "Good," Jack replied. "I'm tired of waiting." 3 days ago, Jack had uncovered files that changed everything. 5 human colony ships all disappeared along routes that Council peacekeepers had guaranteed safe. At first, the Council blamed pirates, then navigational errors, then even suggested human incompetence. But the data Jack found painted a different picture. "Did you tell Admiral Clark?" Lisa asked. "He's bringing the evidence himself. Should be docking within the hour." Lisa nodded, her face tight with worry. "And Dr. Grant?" "Already in the meeting room. She's not happy." That was an understatement. When Dr. Olivia Grant discovered biological agents being developed specifically to target human DNA, the normally calm xenobiologist had thrown a coffee mug against the wall. 20 years of her life spent studying council races, believing in peaceful coexistence, only to find they were developing weapons that could wipe out humanity while leaving other species untouched. The meeting room filled slowly. Council representatives arrived with their usual air of superiority. Tall, elegant beings who never quite looked humans in the eye. Jack watched them carefully, noting which ones appeared nervous, more than he expected. Word had leaked out. Then Admiral Peter Clark arrived last, a data drive clutched in his hand like a weapon. His fleet uniform stood out among the diplomatic attire, a deliberate choice. "Let's begin," Lisa said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. Jack took the floor first, bringing up holographic displays of ship routes and disappearances. 5 colony ships, over 3,000 people, all vanished on Council-protected routes. The Vexari representative, a tall, blue-skinned being, waved a dismissive hand. "Unfortunate accidents. Space is dangerous." "Not this dangerous," Jack countered, "and not with this pattern." He overlaid a map showing Council military movements before each disappearance. Dr. Grant spoke next, her voice ice-cold as she presented her findings. "These are genetic markers specific to humans," she said, highlighting complex molecular structures. "And these are bioweapons designed in Council research facilities that target those exact markers." "Absurd," the Xinthan representative huffed. "We would never—" "Save it," Admiral Clark interrupted. He plugged in his data drive, and a recording filled the room. 3 Council elders appeared in the projection. Jack watched the faces of the Council representatives as they recognized their leaders. "Humans are useful tools, nothing more," said the first elder, a Mogravi with ceremonial face ridges. "Their expansion must be contained," agreed another. "They advance too quickly. Give them a century and they might challenge us." "The disappearances have been effective," said the third. "A few more and they will stay within their boundaries." The recording ended. Silence filled the room. "That recording is obviously fake," the Vexari representative finally said, but even he didn't sound convinced. "It was verified by 3 independent experts," Admiral Clark said. "One of them your own." Lisa Reeves stood up slowly. In 15 years, Jack had never seen her look so resolved. "We came to the Council seeking friendship. We shared our art, our culture, our discoveries. We followed your rules. We trusted you." Her voice remained steady, but her eyes burned. "That trust is now broken." She pressed a button on her tablet, and on every screen in the room appeared a formal document. "As of this moment, Earth officially withdraws from the Galactic Council and all associated treaties." The room erupted. Council members shouted over each other in various languages, their translation devices creating a cacophony of protest. The Xinthan representative slammed a clawed hand on the table. "You cannot withdraw. The treaties are binding for at least 50 standard cycles. Read Section 12, Paragraph 4, Jack said loudly. Any species finding evidence of direct action against their survival may exit all agreements immediately. You'll be isolated, threatened another representative. Your colonies will starve without council trade networks. Lisa smiled thinly. I think you'll find we're more self-sufficient than you believe. As the arguments continued, Jack noticed a subtle change in the room. Some of the junior council representatives were exchanging glances, sending messages on their devices. Not all council species had been aware of the plot against humanity. Some looked genuinely horrified. Admiral Clark moved closer to Jack. The fleet is ready, he whispered. On your word, we begin Operation Shadowfall. Jack nodded slightly. For years, while playing the part of eager diplomatic students, humans had been preparing for this possibility. Ships with hidden capabilities, weapons developed in secret, alliance offers extended to other marginalized species, all waiting for the moment humanity stopped asking for a seat at the table and simply took what they needed. 3 months, Lisa was saying to the council representatives. In 3 months we will establish new boundaries for human space. We advise you to withdraw any council assets from those regions before then. Is that a threat? The Mogravi representative asked, standing to his full height. Lisa didn't back down. It's a courtesy, one you didn't extend to our colony ships. As the meeting dissolved into chaos, Jack stepped forward to the main communication panel and broadcast a pre-prepared message throughout council space. Wherever humans served on council stations, ships, or outposts, they would now see the evidence and the withdrawal notice. The recall was beginning. You can't do this, the Vexari shouted as Lisa walked toward the exit. She paused at the door, looking back at the assembled representatives. We came to you as equals. You treated us as servants. Now you will know us as something else entirely. Outside the meeting room, Lisa's professional demeanor cracked slightly. How long until they realize what's happening? Jack checked his tactical display. Already human ships throughout council space were activating hidden protocols, gathering at predetermined points. Council communications were being quietly monitored, their military movements tracked. They think we're having a tantrum, Jack said. They expect us to come crawling back when we realize we need their trade networks and protection. And by the time they realize we don't, we'll be ready. Jack looked out at the stars, thinking of the carefully laid plans now set in motion. They've never seen humans truly united in purpose. They have no idea what's coming. Lisa straightened, her uniform. Send word to Earth. Tell President Harris the Council has made their choice. She paused, watching Council security forces gathering outside the meeting room, unsure how to proceed. And may God help them all when they realize their mistake. 3 months passed with surprising quiet. In the grand meeting chamber of Harmonious Center, the seat for Earth remained empty. The council leaders spoke of humans with dismissive waves and amused smiles. They were simply throwing a tantrum, the elders assured everyone. Humans would return once their colonies began to suffer without council trade. None noticed how council monitoring stations near the Sol system had gone silent one by one. None questioned why their spy networks suddenly had gaps in their reports about human activities. General Nicole Winters stood in the command center of Olympus Base, buried deep beneath the surface of Mars. Around her, officers moved with purpose, their faces set with determination rather than fear. Status report, she said, hands clasped behind her back. Project Prometheus is at 97%, General, said a young lieutenant. Dr. Murphy says they'll be ready on schedule. Nicole nodded, satisfied. For 5 years, she had overseen the secret development of weapons that could pierce council shields. While Earth's diplomats spoke of peace and cooperation in council chambers, Nicole and her team prepared for the day those talks would fail. And Captain Daniels? The Phantom returned from its 3rd mapping run an hour ago. They've charted 7 new hyperspace routes that bypass council checkpoints. Nicole allowed herself a small smile. The council believed humans were trapped within their own territory, forced to use only approved routes. They had no idea that Captain Steve Daniels and his stealth ship had been mapping an entire network of alternate paths through hyperspace for years. What about our intelligence teams? Maria Sanchez reports that all sleeper agents are in position. They await your command. Maria was perhaps the most valuable piece in this complex game. As Earth's highest-placed intelligence operative, she had spent a decade building a network of humans and sympathetic aliens throughout Council space. Now that network waited, ready to strike at communication relays, weapon depots, and navigation beacons when the order came. The comm system beeped. Dr. Murphy is requesting your presence in Lab 7, General. Tell him I'm on my way. Lab 7 was the heart of Project Prometheus. When Nicole entered, she found Dr. Alan Murphy standing before a weapon that looked deceptively simple, a sleek cylinder about the size of a human arm. Is it ready? She asked without preamble. Alan nodded, his eyes bright with excitement and lack of sleep. Final tests confirmed it this morning. The disruption field completely bypasses their shield harmonics. He pointed to a screen showing the results of their last test. A Council shield captured from a derelict ship years ago had been set up in the testing chamber. The weapon had fired a pulse that passed through the shield as if it weren't there. Will they be able to adapt? Nicole asked, studying the data. Eventually, yes, but by our calculations it will take them at least 6 standard months to develop countermeasures. By then it won't matter, Nicole finished for him. How soon can we deploy them fleet-wide? The automated factories on Ganymede have been producing components for weeks. Assembly begins tomorrow. We'll have enough to outfit every ship in 3 weeks. Nicole placed a hand on Alan's shoulder. Your team has done extraordinary work, Doctor. Earth won't forget. Across the solar system, in a hidden facility orbiting Saturn, Captain Steve Daniels reviewed the final charts from the Phantom's latest mission. His small elite crew had spent the last 3 months slipping in and out of Council space, mapping routes no Council ship had ever used. These readings can't be right, said his navigator, pointing to a strange pattern in the data. Steve studied it carefully. No, they're accurate. We've found it. Found what, Captain? The reason the Council restricted travel in this sector. Steve expanded the map. There's a hyperspace junction here that connects to at least 12 different systems. If we control this point, we control movement across a quarter of Council space, the navigator whispered, understanding dawning. Steve nodded grimly, and they've kept it secret for centuries, using it only for their military and high-priority transports. He sent a secure message to General Winters. This discovery alone could shift the balance of power dramatically. On distant Proxima Centauri, B, Governor Frank Martinez walked through what appeared to be simple farming communities. To Council observers, the human colony here was primitive and struggling, barely worth monitoring. Hidden beneath the surface, however, massive manufacturing facilities hummed with activity. When Council ships performed their occasional flyovers, sophisticated holographic projections showed only simple dwellings and basic technology. Final production numbers? Frank asked his assistant as they entered a vast underground chamber filled with thousands of metallic spheres, each the size of a small car. We've exceeded targets by 12%, Governor. 30,000 units ready for deployment. Frank nodded, satisfied. The autonomous combat drones were perhaps humanity's most closely guarded secret. Small enough to be overlooked, advanced, enough to disable ships many times their size, and numerous enough to overwhelm any defense network. Begin loading them onto the stealth transports tonight, Frank ordered. They need to be in position within 2 weeks. Meanwhile, in the heart of Council space, Maria Sanchez sat in a luxurious apartment looking like any other wealthy trader. The alien across from her, a member of the Talasian species, shifted nervously. The Council is beginning to suspect something, the Talasian said quietly. They've increased patrols around key installations. Maria smiled. Too little, too late. Are your people ready? Yes. When the time comes, we will disable the communication relays as promised. The Talasian hesitated. You understand that once we do this, there's no going back? My people will be marked as traitors to the Council. The Council has betrayed and used dozens of species, Maria said. Your people included. When this is over, the old order will be gone. After the Talasian left, Maria sent a coded message to Earth. All pieces were in place. The Council's arrogance had blinded them to the preparations happening right under their noses. Back on Earth, Admiral Peter Clark stood before the combined fleet. Ships that had once displayed their weapons and capabilities proudly now showed only a fraction of their true power. Hidden weapons, advanced shields, and engines far beyond what the Council thought humans possessed, all concealed behind seemingly ordinary exteriors. For too long we played the part they expected, he told his captains. The eager students, the junior partners, grateful for scraps from the Council table. He brought up a holographic display showing their first target, the massive shipyards orbiting Arcturus. In 1 week, the Council will learn the truth. Humanity didn't withdraw from galactic affairs. His eyes swept across the room, meeting the determined gazes of his officers. We've just been getting ready. Admiral Karen Lewis stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Defiant, looking at the massive shipyards of Arcturus through the main view screen. 6 months had passed since Earth's withdrawal from the Galactic Council. 6 months of preparation, of waiting. Now the waiting was over. All ships report ready, Admiral, said her second-in-command. Karen nodded, her face calm despite the weight of what they were about to do. 120 ships of Earth's first strike fleet had gathered here, hidden behind Arcturus's third moon. The Council had no idea they were coming. Begin the operation, she ordered. Throughout the fleet, captains relayed the command. Weapon systems that had been disguised as ordinary hull plating unfolded. Engines that had been running at minimal power surged to full capacity. Ships that had appeared on scans as civilian transports now revealed their true military nature. Lieutenant Ben Collins sat in the cockpit of his fighter, the Arrowhead. It was the most advanced ship humanity had ever built, though from the outside it looked like a standard patrol craft. Arrowhead Squadron, form up on me, he said into his comm. 20 fighters moved into formation. Their pilots the best Earth had to offer. Remember your training. Don't show everything we can do unless you have to. The attack began without warning. The Defiant fired the first shot, a Prometheus-class energy pulse that passed through the shipyard's shields as if they weren't there. The pulse struck the main power core, disabling it in an instant. Alarms blared throughout the Council facility. Ships scrambled to defend, but they were too slow, too confident in their supposed superiority. The Council had grown complacent after centuries of unchallenged dominance. Ben led his squadron toward the heart of the shipyard. Council fighters rose to meet them, their pilots probably expecting an easy victory over primitive human craft. Now, Ben ordered. The Arrowhead Squadron activated their advanced drives. The fighters suddenly moved with impossible speed and agility, dancing between enemy ships like water flowing around rocks. Council pilots fired and missed, unable to track the humans' movements. On the central command station of the shipyard, Council Elder Zix Tar watched in horror as decades of military shipbuilding began to crumble before his eyes. The tall, six-limbed alien had been one of the strongest voices for containing human expansion. Now he was witnessing firsthand what his arrogance had unleashed. How are they penetrating our shields, he demanded, striking a nearby console with one of his upper limbs. Unknown, Elder, a technician replied, voice shaking. Their weapons. Technology appears to be far beyond our intelligence estimates. Zixtar turned to his communications officer. Call for reinforcements from the Proxima and Sirius fleets. Now. The officer tried, then tried again. Sir, I can't establish contact. All hyperspace communications are being blocked. Impossible. Zixtar hissed. No species has that capability. No species they knew of, at least. But while the Council had kept humanity at arm's length, humans had been studying, adapting, and developing technologies the Council had never imagined. Throughout Council space, the hyperspace disruptors that Captain Daniels and his crew had secretly placed at key junction points activated simultaneously. The carefully mapped network that only humans knew about was now the only functional route through this sector of space, and humanity controlled every access point. Back at the shipyards, Ben Collins flew his Arrowhead through a gap in the station's structure that should have been too small for any ship to navigate. Two Council cruisers tried to follow and collided, with each other, their debris adding to the chaos. Squadron 2, target their weapon platforms, Ben ordered. Squadron 3, disable their escape vessels. We want survivors. This wasn't about destruction for its own sake. This was a message. On Proxima Centauri B, Governor Frank Martinez gave the command that released thousands of combat drones from their hiding places. The small spherical devices shot into space, each following pre-programmed routes to vital Council communication relays throughout nearby systems. Within hours, the Council's ability to coordinate a response was crippled. Ships could not talk to each other. Bases could not call for help. The carefully controlled flow of information that had maintained the Council's power for centuries was suddenly cut off. In the chambers of the Galactic Council on Harmonia Center, representatives watched in stunned silence as reports filtered in from Arcturus. The humans, whom they had dismissed as primitive and powerless without Council support, had struck with devastating efficiency at the heart of their military power. Elder Zixtar's face appeared on the main communication screen, his normally blue skin pale with shock. They knew exactly where to strike, he reported. This was not random. They targeted power cores, shield generators, and communication arrays with precision. The Council leader, a Magravi named Nenvox, leaned forward. What are their demands? They've made none, Zixtar replied. They disabled our ships, destroyed our construction facilities, and... He paused, mandibles clicking in agitation. They left most of our people alive, evacuated in escape pods. This was not a massacre. It was a demonstration. As if on cue, every communication device in Council space activated simultaneously. The face of Admiral Karen Lewis appeared on screens across 1,000 worlds. This message is for the Galactic Council, she said, her voice steady and calm. For decades we sought peaceful cooperation. You responded with deception and plans for our eventual subjugation. Today we have demonstrated what humanity is truly capable of. She paused, letting her words sink in. This was not a war. If we wanted war, we would not have left survivors. Consider this a renegotiation of terms. Her expression hardened slightly. You have 3 days to evacuate the Rigel, Tau Ceti, and Wolf 359 systems. These were our original colony applications that you denied. We're approving them ourselves. The transmission ended, leaving Council representatives staring at each other in disbelief. In his private chambers, Council leader Nenvox contacted his military advisors. Can we stop them? Can we strike back? The answer came back uncertain, frightened. The humans hit us where we were strongest, and they did it with ease. We don't know what else they're capable of. For the first time in 2,000 years, the Galactic Council faced a force it could neither control nor intimidate. And the carefully maintained order of the galaxy began to crack. The great chamber of the Galactic Council had never known such disorder. 2 weeks after the human strike on Arcturus, representatives shouted over each other, pounding tables and making threats. Species that had been silent partners for centuries now openly questioned the leadership of the elder races. Council Chair Nenvox, a Magravi known for his calm demeanor, struggled to maintain order. His ceremonial staff banged against the floor, the sound echoing through the chamber. We will have silence, he demanded, his deep voice cutting through the noise. The room gradually quieted, though anger still filled the air. This body has governed galactic affairs for 2,000 years. We will not be undone by one species. A representative from the Talasian system stood. With respect, honored chair, it is not just the humans who question the Council's leadership. Many of us have suffered similar treatment over the centuries. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Arcturus attack had done more than demonstrate human military capability. It had cracked the foundation of fear and respect that held the Council together. Before Nenvox could respond, the chamber doors opened. A single human walked in, dressed not in diplomatic robes but in a simple gray suit. Greg Phillips moved with confidence as he approached the center of the room. He carried no weapons, needed no guards. The message was clear. Humans did not fear the Council. Who allowed this? Security Chief Moravzik demanded, his reptilian features twisting with anger. The tall, scaled being had been pushing for immediate military action against Earth since the Arcturus attack. The humans withdrew. From the Council, they have no place here. Greg smiled slightly. I'm not here as a diplomat seeking readmission, Chief Moravzik. I am simply a messenger. The chamber fell silent. Even those who had been shouting moments before wanted to hear what this human had to say. The 3 systems we claimed have been successfully evacuated, Greg began. We appreciate your cooperation in this matter. Cooperation was a generous word. The Council had simply been unable to stop the human takeover of those star systems. I am authorized to present Earth's terms for peaceful coexistence going forward. Greg continued, placing a data crystal on the central table. A holographic display appeared, showing a map of the galaxy with new borders clearly marked. This is outrageous, Moravzik hissed. You cannot simply redraw galactic boundaries. We already have, Greg replied calmly. These terms are non-negotiable. Recognition of human-controlled space is shown here, technology sharing agreements that will be mutually beneficial, and the right for Earth to form independent alliances with any willing species. The chamber erupted again. This was not how the Council worked. For millennia, the elder races had controlled which technologies were shared, which alliances were permitted, which territories could be claimed. The humans were not asking for a better position within the existing system. They were changing the system itself. Thousands of light years away, Ambassador Julia Ward sat across from the leader of the Krell, a species that had long chafed under Council restrictions. The Krell were master engineers, but the Council had limited their development for centuries, fearing competition. Your people have demonstrated impressive resolve, the Krell leader said, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. But why should we align with humans rather than wait to see who emerges victorious? Julia smiled. Because we're not seeking to replace the Council as controllers of the galaxy. We're offering something different. She activated a holographic display showing evidence of Council interference in Krell affairs, evidence gathered by Maria's intelligence network over years. They've been suppressing your technological development, restricting your trade routes and limiting your colony expansion, Julia said. Not because you posed any threat, but because your engineering skills might one day match those of the elder races. The Krell leader studied the evidence, his skin changing color with his emotions. How many other species have they treated this way? Dozens, Julia replied. The Council's power depends on keeping everyone else divided and dependent. By the end of the meeting, the Krell had agreed to a preliminary alliance with Earth. Similar conversations were happening throughout the galaxy as human diplomats reached out to species that had been marginalized by Council policies. Back into the Council chamber, the debate raged on. Security Chief Moravzik had gathered support for military action against Earth, despite the Arcturus demonstration. One lucky strike does not make them invincible, he argued, revealing plans for a combined fleet to target Earth itself. If we destroy their homeworld, this rebellion ends. Nenvox looked troubled. Such an action would be unprecedented. The Council has never authorized the destruction of an inhabited world. Unprecedented times require unprecedented measures, Moravzik insisted. Greg Phillips, who had remained silent during this exchange, spoke again. Before you vote on this proposal, you might want to see what Ambassador Ward is releasing to the public networks right now. On screens throughout the chamber, and simultaneously across thousands of worlds, evidence of Council corruption began to stream. Documents showing biological weapons programs targeting multiple species, not just humans. Records of Council interference in planetary governments. Secret agreements to limit technological development of lesser species. Where did they get this information? One representative gasped. The answer was simple. Humans had been gathering it for years, patiently building a case while playing the role of junior partners. Maria Sanchez's intelligence network had penetrated deeper than anyone had imagined as, the evidence mounted, several representatives rose from their seats and walked out of the chamber. The Talasians were first, followed by the Krell, then a dozen others. By session's end, Nearly a third of Council species had announced their withdrawal, following Earth's example. What had been unthinkable weeks ago was now reality. The mighty Galactic Council, which had ruled for 2 millennia, was fracturing before everyone's eyes. In a private meeting room, Nenvox faced Greg Phillips directly. "Do you understand what you've done? The galaxy needs order to function. Without the Council, there will be chaos, possibly war." Greg nodded, his expression serious. "The Council provided order, yes, but at the cost of freedom and true progress. What comes next might be messy for a while, but it will be built on mutual respect rather than control and fear." As news of the Council's disarray spread across the galaxy, 3 distinct factions began to emerge. Those seeking accommodation with Earth and its growing alliance, those demanding war against the humans, and those hoping to remain neutral in the coming storm. The diplomatic structure that had maintained galactic stability for 2,000 years had collapsed in just 2 weeks, and no one, not even the humans, could predict what would rise from its ashes. 1 year after Earth's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, New Geneva Space Station hung like a silver jewel against the blackness of space. The massive structure, built at a neutral point between several star systems, represented something the galaxy had never seen before: a truly equal meeting ground for all species. President Samantha Kelly stood at the main observation window, watching ships arrive from 27 different worlds. Each vessel had its own unique design, from the organic-looking craft of the Talasians to the crystalline structures of the Krell. In the old Council days, ships had been required to follow standardized patterns, with only minor variations allowed, to show species origin. Now diversity was celebrated rather than suppressed. Quite a sight, isn't it? Director Ryan Cooper joined her at the window. As head of the Human Allied Species Initiative, he had spent months developing the framework for what many were now calling the Galactic Alliance. "I never thought I'd see this day," Samantha admitted. "When we withdrew from the Council, I hoped for recognition of our independence. I never imagined we'd be building something entirely new." Ryan nodded. The Council's mistake was thinking, "We just wanted their approval. What we really wanted was respect." The meeting chamber of New Geneva Station was unlike the hierarchical design of the old Council. Instead of raised platforms for elder races and lower positions for newer members, a circular arrangement gave every representative equal standing. The human touch was evident in the design, practical yet welcoming, formal without being intimidating. Ambassador Eric Woods took his position as Earth's representative. Unlike his predecessors who had struggled for attention in Council meetings, Eric was treated with deference by many species, not because Earth demanded it, but because they had earned it. The old Council believed power came from control, Eric said as the session began. They limited technology, restricted trade, and created artificial scarcity to maintain their position. Our alliance will be built on different principles. Diplomat Amy Nelson, a specialist in non-human cultural integration, presented the technical details. Screens around the chamber displayed translation systems far more sophisticated than the Council's standardized protocols. Where the Council had forced all species to adapt to their communication style, Amy's team had created systems that preserved the nuance and cultural context of each language. "True understanding requires more than word-for-word translation," she explained. "It requires respect for how each species thinks and expresses itself." In another part of the station, President Kelly met privately with a representative of the Zorillians, a species that had initially feared humans the most. The tall, crystalline being had been among those who had voted to contain human expansion in the old Council. "When your ships destroyed our monitoring stations near Alpha Centauri, we thought it was the beginning of a human conquest," the Zorillian admitted. "We were certain you would become what you claimed to hate, a dominating force imposing its will on others." Samantha nodded, understanding their fear. "It would have been easy to follow that path. History is full of liberators who become oppressors once they gain power, yet you chose differently," the Zorillian said, crystal facets catching the light as they gestured toward the busy station around them. "We had good teachers," Samantha replied. "Centuries of human history showed us that true strength comes from cooperation, not domination. We just needed to convince the galaxy of that truth. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent message. Defense systems across the station had activated. On the main screen, a fleet of ships appeared, the remaining loyalists to the old council, led by Security Chief Moravzik. They had come to attack New Geneva during the signing ceremony. All civilians to safe areas, came the calm announcement throughout the station. This is not a drill. In the command center, Admiral Peter Clark assessed the situation. The attacking fleet was substantial, nearly 60 vessels of various sizes. But the station was not defenseless. Ships from a dozen allied species moved into protective formations, their diverse designs now united in common purpose. They're hoping to end the alliance before it formally begins, Peter said, a desperate move. What followed was brief but decisive. The Council loyalists had expected to face primarily human defenses. Instead, they met a combined force with technologies and tactics they had never encountered. Krell engineering, Talasian stealth systems, and human weapons worked in concert, creating a defense network that the attackers could not penetrate. Within an hour, the Loyalist fleet retreated, having lost a third of their ships without inflicting significant damage on the station or its defenders. The failed attack became the final nail in the old Council's coffin, as even neutral species now saw which side offered the stronger future. When the signing ceremony resumed, the chamber was more crowded than before. Representatives from 5 previously neutral species had requested to join, impressed by the coordinated defense they had witnessed. Today marks not just the formation of a new alliance, President Kelly said as she addressed the gathered representatives. It marks a fundamental shift in how we view galactic civilization, not as a hierarchy to be climbed, but as a community to be built. The Galactic Alliance Treaty was signed by 32 species that day. Its principles were simple yet revolutionary: mutual defense, open technology sharing with appropriate safeguards, respect for territorial boundaries, and a commitment to cultural exchange without forced assimilation. Later, as ships departed, from the station carrying the news throughout the galaxy, President Kelly stood again at the observation window with the Zorelian representative. "I still have one question," the crystalline being said. "Your species could have continued fighting, possibly even conquered the elder races. Why stop at freedom? Why share power when you could take it?" Samantha smiled. "Humans didn't abandon diplomacy. We abandoned a corrupt diplomatic system. True diplomacy requires genuine respect, and sometimes that respect must be earned through strength." She gestured toward the departing ships, each returning to worlds with their own unique histories and cultures. "The universe now understands both our capacity for patience and our capacity for action. The balance between them is where real peace can finally begin." As the Zorelian departed, Samantha remained at the window, watching the stars. The old Council had seen human adaptability as a threat. They never understood that this same quality allowed humans to envision a galaxy different from anything that had come before, one where strength and compassion could exist side by side, and where freedom did not have to come at the cost of unity. The path ahead would not be easy, but for the first time in millennia, the species of the galaxy would walk it together, as equals.